It happened on a Tuesday night, the kind of night so ordinary it feels like it should have been safe. The rain had just started when I pulled into the driveway, grocery bags still in the back seat, headlights slicing through the mist that hugged our little suburban home. I remember thinking how quiet everything seemed, too quiet, like the house was holding its breath.
The frondeur was Saint-Loquède.
At first, I thought nothing of it.
My husband, Daniel, always forgot to lock it.
But the second I stepped inside, I knew something was off. There was a faint sound coming from the living room, muffled voices, a soft laugh that I recognized but couldn't quite place. Then it hit me. It was my sister, Claire.
I froze mid-step, my hand still on the doorknob, rain dripping from my coat.
Claire wasn't supposed to be here. She lived an hour away, and she hadn't said a word about visiting. My heart started pounding in that heavy, hollow way you feel before something terrible happens. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, that maybe they were just talking, maybe she'd stopped by for some reason. But then I heard it, Daniel's voice, low and shaky. We can't keep this secret much longer. I don't remember dropping my keys, but I remember the sound, the sharp clatter that made them both turn toward me. Daniel's face went pale. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. For a second, none of us moved. The world narrowed to the space between us, my husband, my sister and me, and the air was thick enough to choke on.
What is this?
I managed to whisper, though my throat felt raw. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. Claire looked at him, then back at me, eyes glassy with panic. I thought I knew what I was about to hear. I thought I was about to watch my marriage implode right there in the flickering light of our living room. But then I saw what was on the coffee table, a stack of papers, photographs, and a small black recorder still blinking red. It wasn't an affair. It was something else.
Something darké.
My sister's hands were shaking. You weren't supposed to find out like this, she said. That was when I realized, whatever this secret was, it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about danger. And suddenly, I wasn't sure who I could trust anymore. You never really notice the details of your own home until they start to feel foreign, until every shadow seems to breathe, and every silence feels like it's hiding something. That night, when I pushed the front door open and stepped inside, I swear the air itself was trembling. The smell hit me first, that faint blend of Daniel's cologne and Claire's vanilla perfume. It was subtle, almost innocent, but together it felt wrong.
Out of place.
Like two melodies that should never overlap.
I set my pulse down slowly, listening.
The rain outside had softened into a steady rhythm, tapping against the windows like an impatient clock.
Somewhere deeper in the house, I could hear them talking.
The living room light was on, spilling a soft golden glow across the hallway floor. Are you sure you want to do this? Claire's voice, quiet, strained. I don't see another choice, Daniel replied. My heartbeat became the metronome of that moment, slow, then fast, then wild.
My sister and my husband, whispering in my house, behind my back.
There was a kind of betrayal that made you shake, not from rage, but from disbelief. I took one step forward, then another. Their voices grew clearer as I got closer. We can't involve her, Daniel said. If she finds out. She'll find out eventually, Claire cut him off. And when she does, it'll be worse.
I pressed my palm to the wall to steady myself.
The words involve her and find out swirled in my head like shards of glass. My mind filled in the blanks faster than reason could stop it.
I imagined everything. En affaires, lies, secret meeting. It all made sense.
It had to. I rounded the corner, and there they were. Daniel was standing near the couch, his hands gripping a file folder.
Claire sat on the edge of the coffee table, eyes red, face pale.
The room was a mess, papers scattered across the rug, a camera on the table, a voice recorder blinking red. For a moment, nobody spoke.
Then Daniel said my name, qui est broken.
Emily, it's not what it looks like. I laughed, an ugly trembling sound that felt foreign in my own mouth.
Oh, please. Don't insulte me with clichés.
You and my sister in my house, whispering about secrets, what exactly am I supposed to think? Claire stood up, shaking her head.
You don't understand.
This isn't about us. Then what is it? I snapped. Neither of them answered. I picked up one of the papers from the floor. It was a photo of me. But not just me. It was me at the grocery store, at the park, even leaving work.
Différents days, différents angles.
Someone had been following me. Where did you get these? I whispered.
Daniel hésita-t-elle.
They were sent to me last week. By who? He looked down.
We don't know.
My stomach twisted.
The air felt heavy, pressing down on my lung.
You're telling me someone's been stalking me, and you didn't think to tell me? I wanted to, Daniel said quickly. But the messages said not to. They warned me, if I told you, things would get worse. Claire took a step closer. That's why I came here tonight. He called me because he didn't know what to do. The messages mentioned me too. I stared at both of them, searching for cracks in their faces, signs that this wasn't just another elaborate lie. But the fear in their eyes was real. Daniel reached for the recorder on the table. There's more. Listen. He pressed play, and a distorted voice filled the room, low, mechanical, inhuman. Daniel, you failed to keep your promise.
You think you can eat the truth forever?
Tell your wife about what happened in Boston, and she'll know what you really are. Or, we'll tell her ourselves. I felt the blood drain from my face. What happened in Boston? Daniel didn't answer. Daniel, I repeated, sharper this time. What did you do? He looked at me with a kind of sorrow I'd never seen before.
It's not what you think.
I didn't hurt anyone, Emily. But I was part of something I shouldn't have been. Years ago. I thought it was buried. Claire added quietly, he's been getting threats for weeks. They know things, about his job, about your family. That's why we were meeting. To figure out what to do.
The world tilted.
The betrayal I had felt moments ago was now tangled with confusion and fear. My sister.
My husband.
My marriage. All of it caught in the web of something I couldn't name yet. And then the doorbell rang. 3 sharp chimes that sliced through the tension. We froze.
Daniel's eyes darted to the window.
No one should be here. Claire whispered, do you think it's them? I wanted to laugh, but the words wouldn't come. I just nodded toward the door, my voice barely a breath. Open it. Daniel hesitated, then crossed the room, each step echoing like a countdown. When he pulled the door open, there was no one there, just a single envelope on the doormat, soaked from the rain. He picked it up and tore it open. Inside was a photo of me, standing in the doorway moments earlier, staring at them. On the back, a single line was written in neat black ink. You were never supposed to come home tonight. That was when I realized, whatever had started in Boston wasn't over. It had just found us. The photo trembled in Daniel's hand as if it carried its own pulse. I couldn't look away. The image was too sharp, too precise, taken from the same hallway I just walked through minutes ago. Which meant someone had been inside the house. My house.
Daniel, he whispered, my 3DRY.
This picture, when was it taken? He didn't answer right away. He just looked toward the dark corner by the stairs, the way a hunted animal scans for movement. Claire, pale and trembling, wrapped her arms around herself.
Tonight, she said softly.
It had to be tonight.
The word tonight hung in the air like smoke. I felt my body turn cold.
You're saying someone broke in while I was gone?
Claire shook her head.
No, maybe they never left. The silence that followed was the kind that chews at your nerves, the kind that makes every sound feel like a scream. The rain outside had picked up again, louder this time, masking smaller noises. My heart was hammering so hard it drowned out thought. Daniel tore the envelope in half, like destroying the evidence could erase the threat. We need to leave. Now. But I couldn't move. Not yet.
No, you're going to tell me everything, Daniel.
What's in Boston? Who's sending these messages? He ran a hand through his hair. It was supposed to be a government contract, private security work. But the company, it wasn't clean. There were missing shipments, falsified records. I tried to report it. The next week, the branch burned down. 3 people died. I stared at him. And you never told me? His voice broke. I thought if I buried it, you'd be safe. Claire whispered, they know, Emily. Whoever these people are, they know what he did, and now they're watching you. Something inside me snapped. The fear turned to anger, sharp and focused. So they've been watching our home, threatening you, following me, and you just let it happen? Daniel looked at me like he wanted to speak, but the words wouldn't come. He reached for his laptop on the counter. There's more. I saved everything they sent.
Email, message, picture.
I was trying to track the sender. He opened the laptop and the screen flickered to life, casting a cold blue glow across his face. My reflection appeared faintly beside his, two strangers trapped in the same storm. Claire moved closer, reading over his shoulder. They used burner accounts.
Différents IPS, encrypted mail server. Daniel typed fast, en checking.
But I found something. They reused a password once. Same one they used for a fake delivery service. Can you trace it? I asked. I'm trying. His fingers flew, lines of code and text scrolling across the screen. Then suddenly, the laptop beeped, a soft notification. An email had just arrived. He opened it. There was no message body, just an attachment. A single audio file labeled _delete MP3.
Don't, Claire whispered.
It's a trap. But Daniel clicked play anyway. The speakers crackled, and then a voice, low, deliberate, distorted. You should have listened, Daniel. You should have let the fire consume the past. Now you've brought her into it too. My chest tightened. The voice continued. Check your security cameras. You'll see how long we've been here. Daniel spun in his chair and opened the home surveillance app. The screen showed the front porch, the living room, the backyard.
No signe d'unusual.
But then he switched to the camera over the garage, one I'd forgotten we even had. The feed showed a grainy figure in a black raincoat standing just outside the window, half hidden by shadows. They weren't moving. They were just watching. Claire gasped. I couldn't breathe. Then, as if they could sense us looking, the figure slowly raised a hand and waved.
Daniel slammed the laptop shut.
We're calling the police. Wait, I said, grabbing his arm. What if that's what they want? What if calling the police makes it worse?
Claire's voice cracked. Emily, worse than this.
The question hung there, rhetorical, but I didn't answer. Because deep down, I knew she was right, yet something in my gut screamed that there was more. This wasn't random. This wasn't just blackmail. There was a reason they'd mentioned Boston. A reason they'd sent that photo. I turned to Daniel, my voice low but steady.
What is the password?
He blinked. What? The one they reused. What was it?
Et hésitated. Whisperlake, 1978.
The moment he said it, Claire's head snapped toward him. Wait.
Whisperlake?
That's the facility name from the Boston contract, isn't it?
Daniel froze.
That was the confirmation I didn't want. Whatever Whisper Lake was, it wasn't just part of his past. It was coming back for us. And somewhere out there in the rain, the person who'd taken that photo was still watching. The next morning, the world looked deceptively ordinary. The rain had washed the street clean, birds were back on the telephone wires, and the hum of life outside my window made last night feel like a fever dream. But the imprint of fear never fades that easily.
Daniel hadn't slept.
I could tell by the way his eyes followed every sound, the click of the fridge, the creak of the hallway floorboards, as if danger had learned to tiptoe. Claire sat at the kitchen table, clutching her coffee like it was the only warm thing left in her life. Nobody spoke until the clock struck 8. That's when Daniel's phone buzzed.
A message, intraçable number again.
You found the first piece.
Now dig deeper. Whisper l'exti bleed.
My pulse spiked. They know we opened the file, I said. Daniel nodded slowly. They're leading us somewhere. Claire frowned. Or warning us not to. I couldn't stand the silence that followed. It was like being buried alive beneath unspoken truths. Whisper Lake, I said.
Start there. Tell me everything.
Daniel rubbed his temples. It was a facility outside Boston. On paper, it was a private environmental research project, studying water contamination, sustainable filtration systems. But after I joined, I realized they were dumping chemicals into abandoned sites to create contamination, not fix it. My stomach turned. Why? To justify government funding, he said bitterly. And to hide something worse. People started getting sick near the test sites. One technician tried to go public. He died in a car accident 2 days later. Then the fire. I stared at him. The fire that killed 3 people. He nodded. They said it was electrical. But I saw the accelerants in the lab. It was meant to erase evidence. I ran.
Claire's voice trembled.
So this isn't about blackmail.
It's revenge.
Maybe, Daniel said, his tone flat. But someone else was pulling the strings. There was always a second project, the one they kept off record. Something called Echo Unit.
The name sent a-t-il troubleux.
Echo Unit? What was it?
Et hésita-t-elle. He never found out.
But if they're contacting us now, it means that Unit's still active. Before I could respond, the front door rattled, a soft knock, deliberate and patient.
Daniel froze.
Claire's cup clattered against the table. I motioned for silence, creeping toward the peephole. Outside stood a man in a dark grey suit, holding an umbrella. His expression was calm, detached, like he'd practiced this look in the mirror.
Émilie Turner? Et quelle trousse d'or? Ama Jenkins.
We need to talk about your husband's work in Massachusetts.
My hat stuttered. Daniel whispered, don't open it.
But Keen's next words froze me in place. Your family isn't safe, Mrs. Turner. Not from what's buried under Whisper Lake. The room spun. Against Daniel's protests, I unlocked the door. Keen stepped in, his shoes dripping rain. He showed an ID, but I barely saw it. His voice carried a quiet authority, the kind that suggests he was used to being believed. We've been monitoring former Whisper Lake personnel, he said. 2 have vanished in the last week. 1 was found dead in a motel outside Providence. The other, he looked straight at Daniel, was your old supervisor. He had your name written in his notebook. Daniel's jaw tightened. You're saying someone's hunting us? Keen nodded.
Note Someone.
Something. Whisper Lake wasn't just a lab, it was a test site.
A containment zone.
And it failed.
Claire leaned forward.
Failed how? Keen hesitated, then slid a folder across the table. Inside were photographs, black water seeping through soil, rusted barrels split open, dead fish floating belly up in ponds. But one photo stood out, a half-collapsed tunnel entrance surrounded by warning signs. Daniel's face went pale. That's where they stored the prototypes.
What prototype?
I demanded. He looked at me as if weighing whether the truth would destroy me or save me.
Bioorganique surveillance drone.
Designed to collect environmental data using living neural tissue. I blinked.
You mean, living a inhuman?
He didn't answer. Keen cleared his throat. We believe someone took a sample after the fire. We've been tracking activity tied to that material ever since. The emails you received, those servers were used in our own investigation. So you're saying the people threatening us could be the same ones you're after? Claire asked.
Keen's expression darkened.
Or they're what's left of them.
A cold wind slipped through the doorway, rattling the windows.
The air seemed thicker suddenly, heavier. Daniel stood, pacing. So what do you expect us to do? Sit here and wait to be targeted? Keen closed the folder.
No, you're coming with me.
There's a secure site outside the city where we can keep you safe until we finish this. I didn't like the word secure. It sounded too much like controlled. I glanced at Daniel, but his eyes were distant, already calculating. He'd gone somewhere I couldn't follow. I'll pack a bag, he said. But as he turned toward the hallway, Claire caught my hand under the table and squeezed hard. Her eyes were wide with warning.
Imut, what?
She leaned closer, whispering so quietly only I could hear. He's lying. Daniel knows more than he's saying.
The word pierced me like a blade.
Because deep down, I already knew she was right. I just didn't know how much he'd buried at Whisper Lake, or how much of it was about to come crawling back. Claire's words clung to me long after Keen left the room. He's lying. Daniel knows more than he's saying. They echoed through my mind as I watched my husband pack our bags in mechanical silence, folding shirts like each crease could erase guilt. Keen was waiting in the car outside, the engine idling, windshield wipers slicing through the rain in steady rhythm. Every second that passed felt borrowed. I wanted to believe Daniel was just scared, not deceitful. But fear has a way of turning people into strangers. That night inside the safe house, a cramped government-owned cabin tucked in the woods outside Boston, I lay awake, listening to Daniel's restless breathing beside me. The silence between us was a battlefield. At 2:13 a.m., I heard movement. The faint click of a door latch.
He rose quietly, slipping my feet into cold slipper.
Daniel wasn't in bed. I followed the glow of his phone screen down the hallway. His back was turned, his voice low. "No, she doesn't know yet," he whispered. "But if they find the backup, everything collapses. It's not just data anymore, it's evidence." My chest tightened. Evidence. I stepped back before he turned, returning to bed, pretending to sleep when he came in minutes later. He lay beside me, his breathing slow, steady, practiced. By morning he was gone again, this time claiming to meet with Keane about relocation papers. But when I asked Keane later that day, he frowned. "I haven't seen him since last night."
That is when the panic truly started.
Claire and I tore through the house, searching for any trace of where he'd gone. In the guest room, tucked behind a loose panel in the wall, we found a small dust-covered cassette recorder. There was a note taped to it, written in Daniel's handwriting.
"If you don't make it back, please."
But not in front of the agent.
Maillan shook et I pressed the play.
His voice filled the room, uneven, cracking, terrified. "Emily. Claire, if you're hearing this, then I couldn't stop it. Whisper Lake wasn't just about testing contamination. It was about using it, weaponizing biological adaptation. The neural samples weren't random. They were human, yes, but not volunteers. They came from missing people, transients, drifters, people no one would notice." Claire gasped, covering her mouth. They wanted to see if human cells could adapt to toxins and regenerate. But something went wrong. The tissue started responding, growing, thinking. We didn't just make contamination.
We made something alive.
My throat closed up. They called it echo. It learned to mimic patterns, voices, memories. I think they integrated it into surveillance tech. But now it's spreading, feeding on signal data, using communication networks to survive. The messages we've been getting, it's not a person. It's echo trying to finish what it started. The recording crackled, as if something was distorting the sound. Then Daniel's voice grew faint. "They wanted me to recover a piece, something I hid under the old dock at Whisper Lake. Keane isn't protecting us, Emily. He's retrieving it." The tape ended abruptly with a sharp hiss. I just sat there, staring at the recorder. My mind felt like static.
"Emily," Claire whispered. "If this is true." The door slammed open.
Keane stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his coat, his eyes locked on the recorder. "Where did you find that?" My pulse jumped. It was Daniel's.
"What is going on, Keane? Tell me the truth."
He stepped closer, tone measured. "That tape shouldn't exist." Claire moved between us. "Why?" "Because it proves you're not really FBI." His jaw tightened. "Because if Echo hears it, it'll know where to look next." Before I could process what he meant, a phone rang. Not mine. Not Claire's. Keane's. He answered, and his face drained of color. "What? How many?"
He hung up slowly.
"The facility's compromised. Whisper Lake's containment alarms just triggered."
Claire grabbed my arm, "Daniel.
"He went there, didn't he?" Keane didn't answer, but his silence said enough. Within minutes, we were in his car, tearing down the highway under sheets of rain.
The radio flickered with interference, the dashboard lights dimming.
A familiar voice crackled through the static, Daniel's voice, faint but unmistakable. "Emily, if you're coming, don't." I clutched the recorder in my lap. "We have to find him." Keane's eyes stayed on the road, his knuckles white around the wheel. "You don't understand," he said. "He's not calling you."
That is not Daniel anymore.
I stared at him, not comprehending. Then, as the GPS screen flickered and the signal warped into whispers that sounded eerily human, I realized, Echo had found its voice. And it was speaking through the people I loved. When the first light broke through the blinds, I wasn't sure if I'd actually slept or just drifted in and out of consciousness. My body was cold, my hands still clutching the phone that had recorded everything. The air in the room felt thin, heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. For a long while, I just lay there listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the far-off barking of a dog, the pulse of blood in my ears. I should have felt victorious. After all, I had the proof. The tape.
The trousse.
But instead, a strange stillness had taken hold of me. As if the chaos had burned through every last nerve, leaving only ash. I went downstairs, barefoot, each step creaking beneath me. The living room still smelled faintly of the whiskey Daniel had spilled last night. My sister's scarf lay forgotten on the couch, a red streak of silk like a wound left open. When I opened the curtains, the morning light flooded the room, cruel and revealing. Everything that had been hidden was now laid bare.
Daniel came down not long after.
His hair was messy, his eyes hollow, like he'd aged years overnight. We didn't speak. He stood there, staring at me as if unsure who I was anymore. Maybe he wasn't the only one. I listened to it, I said quietly, my voice barely holding steady. He froze. You what? The tape. Last night. Everything you and her said. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. His throat worked as if swallowing stones. It's not what you think, he finally whispered.
Il looked small, bitter.
That line again. He took a step toward me. She came to me because she thought she was dying. The pills, the hospital bills, she was desperate. The insurance money was the only way out. But I told her no. I told her it was insane. I felt the blood drain from my face. You knew. I thought I could stop her, he said. I didn't want to scare you. She said if I told you, she'd do it herself, and make it look like you pushed her. The room spun. Every memory, every argument, every whisper now rearranged themselves into a new twisted pattern. My sister hadn't just betrayed me, she had dragged him into her madness. So what happens now? I asked. Daniel looked at me, tears gathering but refusing to fall.
Now we tell the truth.
But truth, I realized, wasn't a clean thing. It didn't heal, it scarred. When the police came later that afternoon, I handed them the phone. My sister was found at a motel 2 towns away, alive but fragile, trembling under the weight of her own lies. As they took her statement, I stood outside, watching the rain begin to fall, gentle, almost forgiving. In another life, maybe we would have been the kind of family that laughed over breakfast, that trusted, that loved without question. But that life was buried long before I ever opened the wrong door. Still, as I watched the raindrops blur the glass, I felt something shift inside me, not hope, not closure, but the faintest whisper of peace. Because sometimes the only way to survive the truth is to let it change you. To step into the morning knowing you can never go back, but you can still go on.